Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to discuss learning activities in the online environment. Let's get right down to it. To begin, I'll provide a definition of what we mean when we say learning activities. A learning activity is any type of task that gives the students an opportunity to actively acquire new skills and concepts covered in the modules. Learning activities also provide the students with an opportunity to practice applying any new skills or concepts that you've taught them. In short, learning activities allow the students to learn and practice new knowledge and/or skills. A key element of learning activities is that all students are participating in interacting with you, the instructor, with their fellow classmates, and with the learning materials you've provided them, all in an effort to learn something new. To better understand what we mean by learning activities, consider the following list of examples of learning activities you may already include in your face-to-face classroom. Small group discussions, whole class discussions, simulations, case studies, individual or team projects, individual or team presentations, research papers, student demonstrations, and lab experiments. Notice the emphasis in these activities on the students' involvement in their learning. Each of these learning activities is centered on the students and requires them to be accountable for their learning. Not only do student-centered learning activities require active student participation, they provide an experience for the students in which they can recognize that they are actually learning something new and valuable. Additionally, effective learning activities assist in your role as the instructor by helping you guide the students in their learning and to determine when and how to redirect them on the path toward acquiring new knowledge and skills. Now that we have defined learning activities and provided some examples that can be used in a face-to-face classroom, let's address how we can adapt these learning activities for the online environment. You may have some questions such as, what will the learning activities be like in the online environment since we can't physically see the students? Or, how do I coordinate learning activities when the students are logging in at all hours of the day instead of being in the same place at the same time? In this next part of the video, I'll provide answers to these common questions and we'll examine how you can adapt learning activities to engage your students in the online environment. Most learning activities that are done in the face-to-face classroom can be adapted to the online environment with relative ease. A key element of the online environment to bear in mind when designing online learning activities is that most online interactions take place asynchronously with the online student and instructor scenario. For example, you have to account for the fact that one student may prefer to log in and work on the course at 5 o'clock each morning, while another may prefer to work on it at 6 o'clock in the evening. To get a better idea of how face-to-face activities can be adapted for online learning, let's consider some of the examples of learning activities I mentioned earlier and how they could be adapted for an online course. I imagine you often include some discussion component in the face-to-face version of your class, whether it be small group, whole class, or some combination of the two. In the online course, you can use the discussion board tool to facilitate any type of discussion. Small groups can be assigned to discuss a topic in a forum that only members of that small group have access to. Whole class discussions take place in forums which all students can access. The key is that a discussion that may take 30 minutes of face-to-face time may take 2 to 3 days in the online environment, to allow each student an opportunity to log in at a convenient time. I've worked with a lot of instructors who include some kind of project, sometimes with a presentation component, in their face-to-face class. There are many online tools, both within and outside Blackboard, available to you and the students that can be used to plan, collaborate on, and deliver projects and presentations. Here are some examples of tools, but your instructional designer will help you decide which tools would work best for your project and presentation activities. You can set up a simulation or lab activity to have students interact with an online resource that allows them to interact with a tool in various roles. Here are just a couple examples currently used in EP Online courses. The Deter National Testbed, an online tool for testing cybersecurity threats and technology. Remote Labs, which students can access true electrical and computer engineering lab equipment or instruments through a web interface to perform lab activities. The bottom line is that there is a lot of flexibility for adapting learning activities for the online environment. We know that you have activities that are integral in teaching the subject covered in your course. Your instructional designer will work very hard with you to help design online learning activities that are equivalent to the face-to-face learning activities in terms of quality and rigor.